It's working. Hello, welcome back to Book from Scratch. Sorry, it's been a while since I did this, which is, in case you don't know, Book from Scratch is where I write a book from scratch live. So you're watching me write the whole book, and that's going to be a lot of time of just watching me type, but along the way, I think it's a different way of teaching creative writing. Yes, it's kind of long, but one of the benefits of it is that you're seeing an author like take what's going on in their brain, what's going on in their notes, or what's going on in their notes down here. If you're watching this on YouTube and not on TikTok later, that how you transfer notes into reality. In other words, what's on the screen right here. Now, I finished the first chapter of the first book in what's an anthology of 10 books. It's all telling one story, like the same way the Lord of the Rings, one, 2, and 3. That was almost sacrilegious doing that. The Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, Return of the King. Those 3 books are actually one big book. So in a way, I've got 10 shorter books than the Fellowship of the Ring, for example, all telling one big narrative in an anthology. And that's because it's a bit of a learning experience for me, since I'm going to try and write books in a fantasy setting, but what things that are westerns, horrors, comedies, that kind of thing. That's also going to be teachable for you. You'll watch me learn, you'll learn. Hopefully that's the way it'll work. And this is not the method beyond all methods. This is just my method, and this is how I do it, and hopefully it will be informative for you as well. So I finished the first chapter of the first book, which is a pure fantasy book. It's not going to be a romance book or a western or sci-fi. It's the pure sort of fantasy story, so it's got to have the fantasy element in it. And I completed the first chapter, which is a nice introduction to meeting the main characters, Fortis and Huxton. Let's make this bigger. Right, what I wasn't going to do, but I realised I have to do it, I'm going to edit the first chapter. Now, I was actually going to sort of write everything out, the entire book, then start the editing process, but I think I'm going to do it today because I've remembered that there's things I missed, and you might not watch the rest of this live stream, all hundreds of hours of what we'll be writing. And therefore, you might not want to stick around and get to the editing process. Maybe what I've taught so far is enough for you to start writing, and you've made some headway, and that's great. But you're wondering about the editing process, so let's try and get into it now. Now, I say it's the editing process, but the truth is it's just me. And if you are going to edit your book, you can do it. There's no reason why you can't. But you need to have someone else look at it at some point. That might be the publisher's editor, that might be a friend, might be someone you pay to edit your book for you. I've done that. It was extremely helpful. It just depends if you can afford it at the time. I could afford it at the time. I've never been able to afford it again. So we're going to get started with the first chapter, and I'm going to go over a big editing mistake that I made. Writing mistake that I made. Where I got too caught up in what I was writing to lay a proper foundation. So I'm going to read through it today, editing along the way, and although it's a slow way of doing it, reading it aloud is the best way. Because you will, when you hear yourself say it, you'll realise where it's not making sense, especially if, and what you should avoid is paraphrasing. You think you know what's written on the page, you don't. So it's best to read it as best you can. So I'm just trying to make it a bit bigger for you guys. Right. Okay, here we go. Editing 101. As he repeatedly stabbed the soldier between the plates of its armour, Huxton started to wonder if it was working at all. As his adversary seemed not to notice, and maybe he would need a new plan. Okay, already slight problem. Huxton started to wonder if it was working at all, as his adversary seemed not to notice. So I think that's fine. Has he used it? Oh no, it needs to be one sentence, doesn't it? But it's just it feels a bit wrong. As he repeatedly stabbed the soldier between the plates of its armour, Huxton started to wonder if it was working at all. As his adversary seemed not to notice. Maybe he would need a new plan. See, that doesn't work. Comma there. See, this was if you go back to the episode about first line. Oh, I was so happy with this back when I first started writing it. And that's actually part of the editing process. You're actually going to go back and realise that what you wrote was actually terrible. Huxton started to wonder if it was working at all, as his adversary seemed not to notice. As he repeatedly stabbed the shoulder between the plates of its armour, started to wonder if this was working at all. Maybe that's going to have to do as the first line after all. As he repeatedly stabbed the shoulder between the plates of its armour, Huxton started to wonder. I know, we don't need the fingers. Huxton started to wonder if it was working at all. Which may mean. Which. Would need a new plan. Okay, good. Slightly shorter first sentence. As he repeatedly stabbed the soldier between the plates of his armour, Huxton started to wonder if it was working at all, which meant that he would need a new plan. Each stab failed to elicit? Is that a word? Elicit a reaction? Elicit. Each stab failed to elicit a reaction. Okay, I'll shorten this down. I think that editing is actually a lot of trimming things down. Each stab failed to elicit a reaction, while the being was currently trying to crush Huxton's best friend. Huxton's best friends. Oh no, I'm doing this apostrophe. Huxton's best friends. So that's definitely best friends. Net. Yes, that's all fine. Under its boot. So I trimmed it a little bit. Got rid of what we didn't need, but still kept the general gist. As he repeatedly stabbed the shoulder between the plates of its armour, Huxton started to wonder if it was working at all, which meant that he would need a new plan, and soon. No, I don't need that. A new plan. Each stale failed to elicit a reaction, while the being was currently trying to crush Huxton's best friend's neck under its boot. Fortis seethed as he gripped the soldier's heel and shin and attempted to push it off as it pinned him to the ground. Do something! Fortis. I know. Now, this was the problem I realised. I never really stated where these soldiers came from, and that's a problem because in the second chapter, I'm basically going to move the story forward a few years and then continue. And the problem here is, well, I didn't explain where these guys came from, and I don't actually. I could have just got away with it if the story was setting up this idea that these random attacks happen a lot. But that's not the word I'm going for. Not really. It's while part of this is kind of D&D-ish, and D&D is like doing this all the time, where there's always this Dark Lord, this demon, this goblin, this and that, this ancient horror that has arisen and constantly threatening people. And while that is a part of what I'm going to meld into the book over time, I do feel it's a bit much. I don't want it to be as common as D&D. In other words, I want these things to be a reason, and I want it to play into the larger plot, which means I'm going to have to throw in something that does that. So first off, I need to lay the groundwork for where these things came from. So Fortis seethed as he gripped the soldier's heel and Shinnon attempted to push it off as it pinned him to the... Wait a minute. No, good. It pinned him to the ground. Where did this thing come from? Huxton cried. And he plunged his knife down through a joint, and with little no resistance. do something. Who cares where it came from? Do something. Okay, good. Who cares where it came from? Do something. Portis gasped at Huxton, who was clinging to the soldier's shoulders, one leg hooked over a pauldron to steady himself. To steady himself. His free hand wrapped around the chin piece of the soldier's helm for grip. I am doing something in the world, continually stabbing away. It's not working, Fortis managed to splutter through gritted teeth. You're an orc, aren't you? You're stronger than this thing. Help out. Huxton's leg then slipped, and he dropped the knife on instinct to use both hands to stop himself from falling to the ground. There was a screech as his sweaty fingers slid across the metal and found purchase on the eye sockets of the helm. As he locked his fingers and tensed his arms to take his weight, the helm slid sideways around the head of this thing. The soldier stepped back, flailing its arms. Fortis's neck got the reprieve he was hoping for, and finally he could take a deep breath. It can't see, Huxton said, beaming in pride at rescuing his friend. I'm fine with that. Fortis got to his feet. See, this is why you need to read it aloud. If I read that in my mind, I would probably not have noticed I missed out the very word his. Fortis got to his feet right as the enemy reached over its head. Its head. No, that's wrong. Its head, with both gauntleted hands, grabbed Huxton by his tunic and launched him forward. Fortis barely had time to blink in surprise as his best friend hurtled towards him and bore him to the ground once more. The pair of them rolled across Huxton's mother's favourite rug before crashing into the dining table's thick oak legs. Are you working for this guy? Fortis wheezed. Couldn't you catch me? Huxton retorted. The soldier staggered for a moment, then grabbed its helm and twisted it back into position, taking a moment to align it properly. Why did it do that? It's got no eyes, Huxton said. The soldier looked around and spied its sword lying on the flagstone floor near the fireplace in the corner of the room. The soldier looked around. Pause. The soldier looked around and spied its sword lying on the flagstone floor near the fireplace in the corner of the room. Hang on a minute. There's got to be a pause there somewhere. The soldier looked around. The soldier looked around and spied its sword lying on the flagstone floor near the fireplace in the corner of the room. I think I know. Unlocked its gaze on its sword lying on... There you go. No, I'm not doing that. The soldier looked around and locked its gaze on the sword lying... The soldier looked around and locked its gaze on its sword lying on the flagstone floor near the fireplace in the corner of the room. Huxton winced at the mess this intruder had made into his family home. It had burst in, accompanied by screams from outside, and tried to slash at him and Fortis. Thankfully, the pair of them fell off their seats in shock, knocking cutlery and cups to the ground, and the blade had come down on the table, lodging in the wood. Before the soldier could extract the weapon from the table, Huxton had kicked out at its hand, sending the weapon flying, but leaving a nasty gash in the oak, which would drive his father crazy when he saw it. The soldier abandoned his weapon and decided to choke stomp Fortis. Now, though, hang on a minute. See, that's a little flashback. I'm looking at the past there, so I need to make sure this feels right. This sounds right. The soldier looked around, locked its gaze on the sword lying on the flagstone floor near the fireplace in the corner of the room. Okay, see this bit here, and then this bit here. This is two separate sections. The soldier looked around and locked its gaze on its sword lying on the flagstone floor near the fireplace in the corner of the room. And then Huxton is now thinking of the mess. I need to link essentially the fact that the sword's in there with him wincing at the mess. So I now need to do it. The soldier looked around and locked its gaze on its sword lying on the flagstone floor near the fireplace in the corner of a room. Scattered around... No, hang on a minute. The soldier looked around, shifting through its gaze. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of locked its gaze, shifting its gaze, around, looked around, as if analysing, as if spilled crockery. Crockery. analysing, as if analysing the spilled crockery, overturned stools. Okay, what else could have got knocked over? Crockery. Crockery is the mugs and plates, right? Soldier looked around as if analysing the spill. No, hang on. Shifting its gaze from the spilled crockery over turnstiles and past. What else gets knocked off a table? Implements? Cutlery. Yeah. Over turnstiles and past the cutlery. Until it spied its sword lying on the flagstone floor near the fireplace. Probably don't need to say the fireplace in the corner of the room. Who cares where it is exactly? The soldier looked around, shifting its gaze from the spilled crockery, overturned stools and past. No, hang on. I just realised what I did there. The soldier looked around, shifting its gaze from the spilled crockery, overturned stools, and cutlery. I don't need and cutlery until it spied its sword lying on the flagstone floor near the fireplace. That's a long sentence. Until it spied its sword lying on the flagstone floor near the fireplace. Now, what I've done now by putting all that stuff in about spilled crockery, overturned stools, and cutlery, I've already put in the mind of the reader there's a mess, and now I can talk about Huxton referencing it and introduce the the small flashback a little bit more organically. Huxton winced at the mess this intruder had made in his family home. It had burst in, accompanied by the screams from outside, and tried to slash at him and Fortis. Thankfully, the pair of them fell off their seats in shock, knocking cutlery and cups to the ground. Oh, hang on a minute. I've already mentioned cutlery. I don't want to mention cutlery again. Oh dear, what else do you... I guess it's food. And spilled food. But that means I can't use the gaze from the broken... Yeah, broken. There we go. The soldier looked around and shifted its gaze from the broken crockery, overturned stools, and spilled food until it spied its sword lying on the flagstone in the fireplace. Good. Now I can get back to this. Thankfully, the pair of them fell off their seats in shock, knocking cutlery and cups to the ground, and the blade had come down on the table, lodging in the wood. Before the soldier could extract the weapon from the table, Huxton had kicked out its hand, sending the weapon flying, but leaving a nasty gash in ghost, which would drive his father crazy when he saw it. The soldier had then abandoned, and now, though, it wanted its sword back. Okay, good. I've managed to establish in this bit what had just happened, filling in some gaps and allowing me to go straight to the action while explaining it a little bit later. Now we're back in the present, so continue. Now, though, it wanted its sword back. Before it could bend down to grab its weapon, Huxton seized a mug lying next to him and chucked it at the soldier, where it smashed against the helm, and it stumbled forward, stepping over its weapon, its helmet striking the arch over the fireplace. It's too big a sentence, man. Now it wanted its sword back. Before it could bend down to grab its weapon, and chucked it at the soldier. It smashed against its helm, and it stumbled forwards, stepping over its weapon. Its helmet then striking the arch over the fireplace. For a moment, it seemed dazed. We have to do something more than throw cups at it. That seems wrong. We have to do something other than throw cups at it. Fortis said. You know, I'm the only one coming up with ideas right now. Why don't you try something and I'll give you notes, Huxton replied. Fortis stared blankly into space for a moment. Waiting, Huxton prompted. No. Back to my trusty old thesaurus. Words other than said. Is this a debate? No. 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 Waiting. Huxton. Needled? Waiting, Huxton needled him? No. Urged. That's the one. Waiting, Huxton urged. I'm thinking. The soldier floundered around and crushed crockery and mugs under its feet. Your mum's going to freak out when she sees this, Fortis mentioned. Yeah, Huxton chuckled. We're both in trouble. Both? Just you, Huxton, Fortis said. Do you really think I'm going to get the blame for this? Fortis started sweating. Yeah, this is my problem too. So maybe we should take care of it together, Huxton said. Nope, don't need that, said, holding out a hand. Better to share the punishment than handle it alone, Fortis almost chanted. Better to share the punishment than handle it alone, Huxton repeated, as Fortis' hand gripped his and they both rose together. The scraping of metal and stone drew their attention as the soldier... I just realised something there, sorry. This Huxton and thing, like, gripping hands like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers in Predator, really... They do it again. Let's see. Just want to see if I do exactly the same thing at the end. And he raised his hand. Yeah, good. That's enough for me. Just some continuity there. Like, if your characters do something, it's probably a good idea to have it, you know, repeated. Enforce it, make it be a thing they do, but not draw too much attention to it. Let's see. I'm thinking, so maybe we should take care of it together, holding out a hand. Better share the punishment, hand it alone, was chanted. Better share it, repeated, as Fortis' hand gripped his and they both rose together. The scraping of metal and stone drew their attention as the soldier took the sword by the hilt and hefted the weapon in both hands. Grab the rug, Fortis said. Huxton joined his friend as the orc bent down and raised the corner of the rug high. Huxton did the same, just as Fortis yelled, "Throw it!" Without thinking, Huxton obeyed, casting the rug forward as the soldier advanced on them. It swiped with its sword, but the rug was made of wool of a very hardy flock, and the blade failed to cut deeply. The rug smothered the soldier, blanketing its body. Not his body. Fortis then burst forward and shoulder barged his enemy backwards, and his foe was pushed back. No need to say pushed back. Backwards, and his foe was pushed... shoved against, shoved against the lintel of the fireplace. Now I need to double check the lintel is what I'm thinking of. Lintel of a fireplace. Is it strong? Non-compatible? Yep, I guess fine. So I've done it, the lintel of the fireplace. It didn't go down now, but went down on one knee. And that's when the edge of the... Hang on. It didn't go down, though, but went down on one knee. That's when the edge of the rug fell on the blazing logs in the fireplace and instantly caught fire. Fortis and Huxton watched as the intruder suddenly became a 6-foot-tall torch. "My mum's rug!" Huxton blurted out, realising what he had just done. "Never mind the rug, we need to get out of here," Fortis said, and he pushed Huxton towards the door. Huxton would not be moved easily as he gesticulated wildly and blabbered about the material, curling and singeing in seconds. The sharp smell of burning wool filled the cottage, and Fortis wrinkled his nose. "Out, Huxton, now!" And he grabbed his large arms. He wrapped his large arms around his friend's waist and boldly lifted him into the air and ran out of the door. Huxton leaned over Fortis' shoulder, reaching out for his house as he was taken away. My house, he called out. Fortis turned his head just in time as the flaming soldier chased them out of the house. "See, your house is going to be fine," he commented. But we're still not. That thing's chasing us," Huxton said. "Faster, Fortis, faster," he said, slapping the orc's shoulder. Sorry, I'm just having trouble. Have I seen... So I'm just increasing the chat because it looks like someone's commented. Nope. I guess that's good. Well, actually it's bad. I would like someone to say something in the chat. Anyway. But what... I said slapping the orc's shoulder. "I'm running as fast as I can," and Fortis turned his head forward just in time to see the village well right in front of him. "Hold on," he bellowed, and he took a flying leap over the stone circle bordering the well. They made it to the other side, but he made it to the other side, but his toe clipped the edge of the ring, and the two of them collapsed into the mud. Onto the mud, into the mud. The dancing lights and the flames illuminated them as the soldier neared. Then darkness fell as it tripped on the edge of the shaft and disappeared out of sight. Fortis and Huxton looked at each other, and a second later they heard a splash and sizzle. A splash and sizzle. That was the plan, Fortis said with a smile. Huxton was about to laugh and give his friend a playful punch. What stopped his was the wailing and crashing and yells all around them. From all around them. Crashing from all around them. They rose to take in the scene. As twilight bridged the gap between Snakars. No, I don't need the Snakar. No, just go watch the other episodes. Snakar is... This is going to take some explaining, but this world is on the back of a snail, and Snakar is the name of the snail, because it's a Latin name for snails. Anyway, doesn't matter. As twilight bridged the gap between Snakar's waking and his sleeping, in other words, daytime and nighttime, so when he's awake, his two eyes come out, and they provide like a binary sun system for the planet, for the world. Waking and his sleeping, the soft glow of the world snail's eyes showed a village in turmoil. Soldiers just like the one that had tried to kill Fortis and Huxton were everywhere, smashing into homes, chasing villagers, and trying to burn down the human settlements. The factories offered a tantalizing kindling for the torches the soldiers beheld. Bucket chains were forming. Oh, bucket chains. There we go. That makes sense. Bucket chains were forming quickly, but the fires were spreading out of control. Smoke permeated the air, acrid and bitter in the throat. The head ward. We don't need that. The head warden passed by on their way to help another member of the village's militia. The children had been sent down to the swamp. Follow them. Get into the boats. Head for the stilt house. Need some commas here. Head for the stilt houses in the willow marshes. He ordered them before holding them. He ordered them before holding his slightly bent sword into the air and bellowing a war cry as he charged to help his compatriots. No, just one compatriot. Come on, Huxton, Fortis began. My parents will shelter us until this attack is over. My parents are still here. I have to find them. They're probably doing the fighting. We have to stay out of their way. Huxton spun on the spot, panting heavily and scanning the whole village. Where are they? He cried out. Your dad tends to the chapel. That's the hardiest building in your village. He'll be fine there, and your mum is a warden. She's fighting these things. Huxton's chest swelled as he thought about his mum, who had volunteered to be a village warden for the last 3 years. Okay, this isn't quite right. Your dad tends the chapel. That's the hardest building in your village. He'll be fine. He'll be fine there, and your mum is a warden. She's fighting these things. Huxton's chest swelled as he thought about his mum, who had volunteered to be a village warden for the last 3 years. His mum. Okay, so this is Huxton's chest swelled as he thought about his mum, who had volunteered to be a village warden for the last 3 years, spearing one of these soldiers through the stomach. Okay, visualized is better. Huxton's chest swelled as he visualized. As he imagined his mum. Yeah. As he imagined his mum, who had volunteered to be a village warden for the last 3 years, spearing one of these soldiers through their stomach. What do I do? What do I do, Fortis? This is my village. Who are these soldiers? Why are they doing this? Fortis licked his lips, turning his head towards the screams and cries. People we had known for years were fighting for their lives and dying. I need to get a message to my master. They'll send help. The chapel's beacon, Huxton said. They both turned to the twin stalks of the chapel, and neither one was lit. We can do that. We can send for help. Right. This is probably where I get... I need to go back. Like, where do these soldiers come from? That feels right. Now, at the moment, Fortis and Huxton don't know, so I can't really insert something... No, hang on, I can. This head warden probably does know what they are, so he can say... Okay, I'm going to lengthen this bit. Okay, I need to give them a name. Something knights. Are they knights, soldiers? Okay, back to trusty old thesaurus again. Soldier thesaurus. Warrior's good. So what I need to do is actually give these things a name now. Something warrior. Something warriors. What? Now they're kind of moving via like a motive force. They're not actually. Voice too low. Oh, dearie, someone did comment after all. I apologise. I'm going to move the mic closer. Well done, NS Gamer, you star. Thank you for saying that. I hope that's much clearer now. Anyway, I'm so sorry you barely heard any of that. I'll just turn the volume up and now turn it down. Right, something warriors. Now, they're moving through the motive force, so like magic in this universe is going to work by, if you know scientifically how something works, you can replicate that natural force in other places. So someone knows how things move and replicated it on the armor. So what can I call them? Motion warriors? No, sounds boring. Flux warriors? Kinetic warriors? Too scientific. Kinetic warriors. Motility. Okay, I don't like just trying to come up with a better word than motion isn't going to work. Ambulation? No. Loco warriors? That makes them sound crazy. Motion warriors? No. So motion isn't great. I think I need a name of it. Maybe I should choose an historical knight soldier term. They're empty shoulders. So they're empty though, aren't they? So maybe rather than motion, empty. Baron warriors. Ooh, Baron warriors. Void warriors. Okay, I like that for now. So that'll placeholder. Void warriors. Oh, someone must have. Void warriors. Void warriors. Okay, so what I'm thinking, and this can come into later books, is that a Void Warrior is an animated suit of armor, animated by Bob. That's the name, this placeholder name of the main villain later on in the story, and that's what he uses as a sort of quick soldier. Not great, lacking a sort of like real skill and strength. Easy to make in numbers, and like, so my feeling is that we'll see more Void Warriors during the book, and they still are around. Like, my thinking is that Bob has been rising and falling throughout time, and he always sort of like reincarnates. And I'm gonna flesh out a little bit more about why he's doing that. In a way, he's reviving himself, reincarnating, because he wants to rule, but he was trying to rule effectively, but he's actually really bad at it because his primary way of ruling is going to be constantly a failure. But he still keeps coming back and he still keeps threatening the world. But every time he does, his magic remains and the Void Warriors remain. So I'm going to pitch this as a squad of Void Warriors he had a while ago, and they were maybe buried, restrained somehow, and now they're free. So I'll have to think about how they got free later. Past by the way, I don't remember the village's militia. Void Warriors. Where did they come from? He remarked. Then finally seemed to spot Fortis and Huxton. The hitmen passed by on their way to help another member of the village's militia. Void Warriors. Where did they come from? Okay, that's all I need to sort of say, and then I can talk about Void Warriors later. The head warden passed by on their way to help another member of the village's militia. Void Warriors, where did they come from? He remarked. Then finally seemed to spot Fortis and Huxton. The children have been sent down to the swamp. Follow them. Get into the boats. Blah, 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 blah. I've already read this. Okay, wait. They both started running for the chapel, which sat on a low hill looking over the village. They reached the double doors and pushed their way in. Inside, the heavy, incense-filled air of the building felt clean and crisp, free from the smoke wafting around the village. I need to make that another sentence. Inside, the heavy, incense-filled air of the building felt clean and crisp, free from the smoke wafting around the village. Inside was practically the whole village. No, I can't say village again. Wafting around from the smoke, filling the air. Oh, this is tricky, isn't it? But anyways, inside was practically the whole. Was everyone not involved in the fight? Type too fast. Inside was everyone not involved in the fight. No other children. They had run for the swamp at the first sign of trouble. It was just the adults. Mr. Butcher, who gave Huxton steaks. Mr. Bun. Okay, now I'm doing it. Mr. Bun, the baker kind of thing, aren't I? Mr. Butcher, who gave Huxton steaks. Mr. Bun, who had the village trees. And Mrs. Needle, who darned his socks last season, and many more. I'm going to leave that and come back and rename them later. Only the wardens, like Huxton's mum, were not here. Son! A tall man in robes stepped forward from a crowd of villagers. People lay on the pews and their wounds were being tended to. Huxton went to embrace his father, but stopped when he saw the red stains on his robes and his father's hands wet with blood. It's better. With blood. Quickly, get that door closed and barricaded, he called to the crowd, and people closed the doors and began heaving unoccupied pews to the entrance. What are you doing here? The children were sent to the swamp. Fortis, get the children to your village. Father, Fortis's people can help. Let us light the beacons. Huxton's father's head turned to the twin spires of Snakar's chapel. Huxton wondered why no one else here had thought to do it. You're right. The warden's norm is. No, okay, I can't say do it twice. Had thought to do it. Okay, you're right. Normally, it's the warden's duty, but we can send the signal. Okay, this is where I need to talk about these Void Warriors a little bit more, isn't it? How do we stop these things? They're Void Warriors, proper name I suppose. They're Void Warriors. Remember. Okay. Quickly get to that door and get. Okay, did I say Mrs. Needle, by the way? Yes, good. They are. Come on. They're Void Warriors. I remember them from the stories I used to tell me. Mr. Neal said, holding a pew forward. What are they doing here? What are they doing here? said bun. Butcher. What are you doing here, Mr. Butcher? Mr. Butcher. Something. Cried out. Blabbered. He's asking a question, so not said. Blustered. Yeah. Wait. No, not blustered. No, it's not working. Hundred. Void Warriors and Void Warriors litter the land. Buried. Sunk. Sunk. Buried in the land. Sunken in the sea. Trapped. Sunk. Trapped. Void Warriors litter the land. Either buried, sunk, or trapped. For all we know. For all we know, they finally know. Tangled. No, Huxton's dad. Right, okay, good. Managed to insert it at last. Now, is this enough? Question to ask yourself if you want to lay some groundwork but not spend a huge amount of time doing some exposition. Void Warriors live for the land, either buried, sunk, or trapped. For you know, they just managed to climb out of the swamp after tangled in tree roots. After being tangled in tree roots for 100 years. Huxton's dad replied, "It doesn't matter now. We'll figure it out later." Right. I think that's enough for the reader to get by on. The reader will have heard someone say Void Warriors, so we know they'll go, oh, okay, so the people kind of know what these things are. They'll then read this and get the sense that, okay, so it's like something left, a weapon left over that's just released itself. That also takes away the idea that someone's managing these Void Warriors at the moment. This is like a random attack, and there's a slight explanation of where they come from, but it also lays the groundwork for who created these Warriors, why did they litter the land, and that can be answered later, especially when Fortis and Huxton are introduced to more characters later and explain their backstory to some degree. To you it's 100 years, Huxton's made. We'll figure it out later. Hang on a minute. Later. Okay. This is all kind of linked. To son and friend. See, I'm gonna read through that and see how that works. Okay. What are you doing here? Mr. Butcher wondered. Void Warriors litter the land, either buried, sunk, or trapped. For we know, they just managed to climb out of the swamp after being tangled in tree roots for 100 years. Huxton's dad replied. We'll figure it out later. He then turned to his son and Fortis. What are you doing here? The children were sent to the swamp. Okay, I don't need the exclamation mark. I just need this and that statement. Fortis, get the children to your village. Father, Fortis's people can help. Let us light the beacons. Huxton's father's head turned to the twin spires of Snakar's chapel. Huxton wired no one else had thought to do it. You're right. Normally it's the warden's duty, but we can send the signal. Light them, boys. Huxton and Fortis turned to go. Then their collar... But their... I think I'm saying but too much. Uncle's... then you... Oh, hang on. I don't need this. I don't need them to prod the boys any further. You take that one, I'll take this one. Okay, the reason why I deleted that is that it was unnecessary to sort of tell the boys to do something. There's clearly the adults don't want the children there, they want them to safety, but the kids are taking an initiative in something. I feel it's okay for the adults to forget the fact that these kids need to be in safety. Time is of the essence. Get on the signal. Off they go. It's fine. You take that one. I'll take this one, Huxton said, and darted for the nearest tower. Fortis did the same. Huxton's legs burned with the effort. Excuse me. Burned with the effort of scaling the winding steps leading to the top of the tower. The steps led to the coupler in the middle of which sat a fire pit ready to be lit. Don't need that. Don't know why I added it. When he reached the top, he looked over at the other tower. We need to say it. Tower. Seeing Fortis reach the top of his. What's the distress signal? Red flames, Fortis replied. Huxton looked around the tower, seeing a crate next to the steps. He flung it open and found a red bag. He pulled at its drawstring, and inside was a fine white powder. Pour it on. Oops, a daisy. Pour it on. Then use the oil and flint, Fortis called out. Huxton dumped the entire contents onto the wood, waiting to burn. And he poured on a smidgen of oil, paused for a moment, then doused the whole thing in oil, just in case. He reached for the flint and struck the metal and stone. Several sparks flew, and the pyre burst into crimson flame. Fortis's tower lit up too. They both yelled in triumph as the beacons cast their light over the village. Stop. They'll be here soon, Fortis called out. Help is coming. Now let's get going. Would he say that? Oh, yeah. Fortis can say that. Boom. The two Fretons looked at each other with wide eyes. They went to the edge of they went to the edge of their towers? Yeah, it's fine to say towers again at this point. Towers and peered over the edge. 3 of the soldiers were there. Void Warriors. I think it's now time to start calling them Void Warriors. Were there, hacking at the door. Three of the Void Warriors were there, hacking at the door. What do we do? Huxton shouted at Fortis across the chapel porch. He watched his friend look around his cupola. Fortis then decided to grab one of the loose slabs on the tower roof. Huxton watched him heave it to the edge, and then push it off. Huxton watched Greystone... Okay, hang on. We don't need to do that. Don't need to keep saying Huxton. He watched Greystone tumble off the tower, spinning as it fell, and a second later smashed into one of the soldiers below. It's okay to say soldiers again. It crumbled. It crumbled under the weight of the stone as it deformed, and as it deformed the metal, it lodged in the soldier's helm. The soldier stumbled around, then collapsed to the ground. Fortis whooped and hollered at his victory. The 2 remaining Void Warriors looked up. One turned back to the door and started hacking away at the wood with its axe. The other walked up to the tower and started to climb. Huxton heard his friend utter, "Oh." "What do I do?" Fortis said as the soldier climbed. "Wait there, I'll help," Huxton said. He descended the steps of his own tower, taking them 2 at a time, then 3 at a time. 2 at a time, then 3 at a time, as his momentum carried him down. He almost tumbled out onto the floor of the chapel. He was going so fast. He bolted for Fortis's tower, picking up a tall black iron candle holder. dribbling melted wax onto the floor as he hefted it again. He bolted for Fortis' tower, stopping only to pick up a tall black iron candle holder. It dribbled wax. It dribbled melted wax onto the floor. Okay, he's like hefting it, so I don't want to use hefting, I've used that like several times. Need to find something better. Nope. Lifting? Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Stopping only to pick up a tall black iron candle holder. It dribbled melted wax onto the floor as he lifted it. It carried it up the stairs. A tall black iron candle. It dribbled melted wax onto the floor as he lifted it and carried it up the stairs. "Someone help me!" he cried out to the villagers huddled in the chapel. His legs he cried out as a parting shot to them. Huddled in the chapel. That's fine. His legs groaned as he ascended the tower to reach his friend, and when he made it to the top, he saw Fortis wrestling with the warrior. Okay, this is too long. Okay, I'll say Void Warrior again. I just like saying it. Anyway, his legs groaned as he ascended the tower to reach his friend. Full stop. When he made it to the top, he saw Fortis wrestling with the Void Warrior, who had one gauntlet on the edge of the roof, and it's one free hand grappling with the orc. Huxton swung the candle holder, and the heavy base struck the helm of the soldier. The clang was like a poorly rung bell, but it did the job as the soldier's helm went flying off into the night. Fortis and Huxton stared at the empty space where the soldier's head should have been. There was nothing. "The knowledge of motion is bringing these things to life," Huxton said. "Who cares? Hit it again." Never mind, I'll do that later. Huxton swung the swung his makeshift weapon again, and the soldier let go of Fortis and grabbed the candle holder. "Let go," Huxton cried out. "No, you let go," Fortis said, and he kicked at the... Oh, that's fine, yeah. And he kicked at the stone rim of the tower. Huxton watched the slab give way from the mortar, and he understood immediately, so he let go of the candle holder. The slab slid free, and the soldier disappeared over the edge. Both boys watched as the soldier slammed to the ground and shattered, bits and pieces of armour flying everywhere. One word. Before they could... I have to speed up this editing, I'm sorry. Before they could celebrate, a horn blast washed over the village. They looked up to see a group of 10 orcs carrying clubs and wooden shields sprint into the village. "We're saved," Fortis declared. "No, we aren't," Huxton said. "There's more soldiers, Void Warriors." Probably a bit time to use that word again. War. Void Warriors, under the sway of the knowledge of motion, appeared out of the tree line. The village wardens were pushed back into the centre of the village. Huxton counted 7 remaining. They were quickly joined by the orcs, forming a defensive circle. The 17 defenders were being fenced in by the soldiers. "They're outnumbered," Fortis said. "Mother," Huxton uttered, clutching a glimpse of his mum jabbing a spear forward to keep the advancing enemy at bay. "We have to do something," Huxton said. "Let's go tell your dad," Fortis replied. They rushed down the tower, bursting out into the nave. "Father, Mother and the orcs, they're surrounded." Huxton watched his dad stare at the barred chapel doors. He then took a step forward before one of the priests grabbed one of the other priests, thus implying that he's a priest, giving Huxton's father a profession. A respectable profession, I guess. Grabbed his shirt. "You can't go out there, Lace. They'll kill you." Huxton watched the crowd murmur in agreement. "The wardens are doing their job. What can we do?" the priest added. As everyone heeded the priest's words, the only sounds in the chapel were the spluttering and sizzling of dying candles. "We can help," Fortis said softly. All eyes turned to him. "What?" the priest asked. "We can help," Fortis said. "The wardens, they fight," the priest began. "Yes, but we can too," Huxton said. Huxton added. We don't have to be in here. We can be out there. We can save lives. It's dangerous. They are here to protect us. They need us now. But they need... I'm using but too many times. We don't have to be in here. We can be out there. We can save lives. Yes, it's dangerous. Yes, it's dangerous. But they are here to protect us. And now they need us. Okay, we need to emphasize the word us. The priest stepped back, staring at the ground, not meeting Fortis or Huxton's pleading gaze. When they are done with our friends and our family out there, they're coming for us next. Now is the time to do something. Our normal ways do suit this extreme situation. Don't suit this. That doesn't sound right. Seems very stilted language. The normal ways, actually, that's better because it implies the normal ways don't suit this extreme situation. We need to act differently. The priest's eyes went wide, as if Huxton's words had been a shock to his system. He's right. This is not a time for the old ways. Let's play our part into the car's will. The priest then rushed for the door, his gnarled old fingers pressing against the drawbar as he tried to lift it. Lace joined him, as did Fortis and Huxton, and soon 5 more men and women were at the door, lifting the seal and shoving the doors open, letting the cool night air into the chapel. The villagers picked up anything they could from the chapel: chairs, brooms, candlesticks, an altar plate. A soldier right out, a void warrior. Yep, there we go. A void warrior right outside, who moments before had been hacking at the wood with an axe, stumbled backwards, and before it could right itself, a horde of villagers erupted from the chapel. Lace barged it to the ground, and the priest stepped onto its chest piece. Onto its chest piece, as he charged down the hill towards the centre of the village. The soldier was crushed under the boots of farmers, butchers, farriers, tavern workers, husbands and wives as they tore down the hill. The village defenders paused in surprise, as the very people they swore to protect swarmed towards them. The soldiers moved to intercept the warrior, the void. The empty soldiers... Yeah, different way of saying void warriors. The empty soldiers moved to intercept, readying weapons to cut the villagers down. But what could they do when their swords met a wooden chair and lodged in... We don't need wooden chairs. Met a chair and lodged in the wood. Then had their arms grabbed and torn from their bodies. Then had their weapons become their adversaries' weapons. The soldiers may not have been fighting trained... Wait. Here we go. The soldiers may not have been fighting trained militia. However, that did not matter to the villagers, who had numbers and drive. Passion? Who had numbers and... Maybe it should be... Passion. Who had numbers and... Devotion? And zeal. Yeah, that's great. Let's see. And zeal. Does zeal work? Zeal sounds like a religious phrase. Great energy infusing. Cool. Yeah, that's fine. And zeal. The orcs and wardens snapped out their shock and dived into the fray. Suddenly, the soldiers were no longer fighting just the defenders. It was the whole village. Fortis grabbed a soldier's arm before it could swing, and Lace brought a candelabra down on its helm, driving it into its chest plate. Huxton darted behind a soldier as his mother pushed it back. It tripped over him, and before the soldier could get back up, it was mobbed and taken apart. The unexpected charge ended the invasion of it in minutes, and all that was left of the attackers were the strewn about pieces of unmoving armour. When the last soldier was dismantled, the whole village cheered. No one else had died. The casualties were a minimum. A minimum. Sounds better. Huxton and Fortis collapsed together, splashing into the mud, cheeks flushed and out of breath. "We did it," Huxton said. The whole village came together and stopped them. "I've never heard of a village doing anything like this. The wardens take care of bandits, brigands and invaders," Fortis commented. This is how all the towns should defend themselves. Show these kinds of villains, Huxton began, and he picked up a discarded helmet and stared into the empty eye sockets, that they all stand together. It was pretty exciting, Fortis. Not said. Now then, what is he doing? He's not questioning. He's not provoking. Not persuading. He's not humorous. Not debating. Not chatter. Is he saying it in surprise? No. Happiness, maybe? Alright, hang on a minute. It was pretty exciting, Fortis. It was pretty exciting, Fortis grinned. Beamed? It was pretty exciting. Exclaimed. Right? No. Pretty exciting. It was pretty exciting, Fortis exclaimed. I know, right? Huxton agreed. I feel so good. I never thought I would do anything like that in my whole life. Fortis stared into the distance. Maybe we should do this again, he said tentatively, as if he was dipping his toes into a lake before taking a dive. What? Invite soldiers to attack our village? Huxton joked. No, I mean fight like the way we just did. Ending a threat, bringing peace. Fortis answered. And he hefted a broken broom handle in his hand. I don't need to say in his hand. Well, how else is he doing it? In his teeth. And he hefted a broken broom handle. Testing, feeling its weight. Feeling its weight. He had just used it to cave in the chest plate of a soldier. The pair took a moment to look around. The priest was giving thanks for the victory. The orcs were being given free drinks in the tavern. Huxton's mother and father were embracing. Look at what we achieved. We could do this again. We can help others in a similar situation, Huxton said. We? Fortis replied. It's fine for it to just be replied. I wouldn't fight these kinds of battles with anyone else, Huxton said, and he raised his hand. Fortis smiled and clasped Huxton's palm. Together? Fortis said. Together. Huxton promised. Okay. Right. That's just over an hour. We've got to stop. You just watched a whole editing process. That's how I do it. I know any other writers who happen to come across this live stream or watch the video afterwards, do you do roughly the same thing? And add your hints and tips if you do. Anyone watching who's starting their own writing journey needs all the help they can get. So what can I say about editing, though? It's actually something I quite enjoy about writing a book. I like going back. I feel good making improvements. There is a bit of a down. You feel a bit down when you catch something that you can't change. Like, you don't feel that you can't come up with the change you want to make, the thing that makes it better. Like, for example, using Mr. Bun and Mr. Butcher and Mrs. Needle is quite... doesn't feel great. It should be better with these names, but I'm not going to change that now because I don't want to think of names right now, and that's fine. You can do that. You don't have to get everything done from the very beginning, not even on the first edit, which this kind of was. It's obviously just not... grammar and punctuation, whatever language you're writing in, is important, obviously. I feel though you can play with it and go against the rules. For example, up here I'm using an exclamation mark. People say exclamation marks shouldn't be used all that much. I mean, they should just be used what feels like the right amount and what reads the right amount. And obviously don't overuse them, otherwise when you use it and it means something, it tells the person who's reading it something, it kind of waters it down if you keep using exclamation mark. But like, grammar and punctuation are there for you to play with and even enhance like the grammar and punctuation we use now in English is not the same as it was a century ago, or 500 years ago, or 1,000 years ago when we barely spoke modern day English, I guess. So, what are you looking for when you edit your story? I mean, this is why reading it aloud is so important, because that's the best way of understanding how it's going to read it in the mind of your reader. And as you read it through and think, oh, this is probably where you're supposed to add the emphasis, how you slow the words down. Like, for example, here, you just had the other walked up the tower and started. Like, if I was reading this aloud, I would, and I've never read it before, I probably would still read it. The two remaining Void Warriors looked up. One turned back to the door and started hacking away at the wood with its axe. So I've made hacking sound like it's read onomatopoeia a little bit. Hacking away at the wood with its axe. The other walked up to the tower and started to climb. See, I added my own. I think people, when they read it and they want to add that emphasis from the get-go, they kind of know to make it sound like tense and dramatic. The other walked up to the tower and started to climb. Huxton heard his friend utter, "Oh." See, what I could have done is gone, Huxton heard his friend utter, "Oh." But I think if your people are reading this, they will, like, your eyes see what's ahead and they incorporate it into how you read it, and until how you read the words directly in front of you. So Huxton heard his friend utter, "Oh." "What do I do?" Fortis said as the soldier climbed. It's kind of intuitive, like, what do I do? No, I think the words are kind of implying that. Also, you could just, what do I do? People don't say it blandly. They tend to cry it out, shout it out. "Wait there, I'll help." Actually, yes, I should have put a comment. "Wait there, I'll help. Hux, I'm coming to help." There you go. See, already by reading it aloud, I've realised it needs a bit more drama. "I'm coming to help," Huxton said. Anyway, when you're editing, you're trying to add a bit more oomph with the words. You're trying to make them pop. You're trying to get your reader to read it in a way that brings in the anxiety, the drama, the panic, the passion, the zeal, everything. And obviously your book is going to read differently to what I've written, but I feel like it's the same process. You just have to read it through, read it aloud, and then you know how it sounds. And if you can make it sound better when you read it aloud, it's going to read better when someone just scanned the pages with their eyes. I think I'm going to stop there for today. So that was a brief, hopefully informative editing process, the kind of thing that you might have to do when you're editing your own books. You decide, though, whether you want to edit after writing the whole book. If it's me, I am a kind of write the whole book, then go back and edit. You just decide what works better for you, what feels like you're keeping things going. Like, I might have done that by going back and giving the Void Warriors a bit of a sort of foundation for their existence, why they're in the village, and nothing else. Like, no one's controlling them, they're just a remnant and they've risen again, and that kind of implies that later in the book there'll be more remnants rising. And now, like, if I got all the way through the whole book, came back here, I would have then had to insert the Void Warriors here, and then probably insert them in other places through the book, forcing a massive rewrite somewhere. Or I would have got later into the book, realised, I can go back and use those soldiers, I've got to give them a name, I've got to go back and do a rewrite in the very first chapter, then I have to think about what that does to the rest of the story. My advice then, what I'm saying is, write a chunk, go back and edit the chunk, then move on. So chunk, edit. That's what I'm suggesting, finally. Thank you very much for watching. My big thanks to NS Gamer again for saying the voice too low and remind me, I really should have noticed that earlier, but that's my fault for not really understanding chats just yet. So thank you so much. Bless you for that. And to anyone else watching, add your thoughts about how to edit into the comments so that other writers can benefit from your experience, your suggestions, your tips, your knowledge. Thank you very much for watching. Have a very good morning, afternoon, and evening wherever you are in the world. Goodbye.